Welcome to the morning show. I'm your host, Al. Today's topic, a Bob Baffert update. Is Churchill Downs Inc. being fair to Bob with their late decision to extend his 1-year suspension to 2, thus making him ineligible for the 2024 Kentucky Derby? Now, we're entering the Kentucky Derby prep race season now. Later this month, going to be going into full swing. And are they treating Bob fairly? Because initially this suspension was supposed to be 1 year. And now, after Bob wins the Preakness in 2024, a couple months later, they decide Bob is, he's not remorseful enough. Let's extend his suspension through 2024 too. And we're going to take a look at that, but first, coffee. 8 o'clock coffee, original blend. Now that's a damn good cup of coffee. Nice and hot, smooth flavor, tremendous. Will Bob appeal this 2024 suspension? Now, he appealed it last year. He went through the legal steps, presented his case, and they turned down his appeal, and he accepted it. Okay, he missed the Kentucky Derby. Now, a couple weeks later, he comes back. He becomes eligible for the Preakness and wins the Preakness, following his 1-year suspension from these Triple Crown races. And he wins the Preakness with National Treasure, his 8th Preakness victory, and didn't win the Belmont Stakes. So it looks like all systems go. We'll gear up for the 2024 season, right? So now, shortly after the Belmont Stakes, about 2 months later, in early July, they decide Churchill Downs Inc. says Bob's not remorseful enough. Let's suspend him another year. Now, I'm going to look at this more specifically and give you some of the specifics of this here and tell you the exact, go right to the source here. And this is from the Courier Journal. Bob Baffert out for Kentucky Derby 150, trainer suspension extended by Churchill Downs. Now, he wins the Preakness, right? He accepted his suspension from the 2023 Kentucky Derby and he moved forward, okay? He did what he could and he accepted the decision, went on, wins the Preakness. Now, a couple months later, Churchill Downs Inc. says, hey, he's not remorseful enough. Let's extend it another year and let's go to it. Right from the horse's mouth, so to say. And this is from the Courier Journal, Alexis Kubert, her article. Okay, and this was released initially published on July 3rd, 2023. Horse trainer Bob Baffert's suspension from Churchill Downs has been extended through the end of the 2024 calendar year, ruling him out of the 150th Kentucky Derby, announced Monday afternoon. Okay, so they come up with this late decision. We go on. Baffert's 2-year suspension was set to expire following the conclusion of the 2023 spring meet, which was moved to Ellis Park. So Bob was actually suspended not just from Churchill Downs, but CDI Inc., Churchill Downs Inc.'s tracks. The Hall of Famer was initially, the Hall of Fame trainer was initially suspended after Medina Spirit crossed the finish line first in the 2021 Kentucky Derby, failed a post-race drug test, and was later disqualified. Okay. And CDI cited Kentucky continued concerns regarding the threat to the safety of integrity of racing he imposes to CDI-owned tracks. Mr. Baffert continues to peddle a false narrative concerning his failed drug test of Medina Spirit at the 147th Kentucky Derby, which his horse was disqualified, but the Kentucky, so it looks like it was a 2-year suspension anyway. So he's back and he's set to return this year. He missed last year. And okay. Prior to the race, Mr. Baffert signed an agreement with Churchill Downs, which stated he was responsible for understanding the rules of racing in Kentucky and that he would abide by them. The results of the test clearly show that he did not comply, and his ongoing conduct reveals his continued disregard for the rules and regulations. Now, that's speculation. And his ongoing conduct reveals his continued disregard for the rules and regulations that ensure horse safety as well as the integrity and fairness of the races conducted. Now, that's speculation. They say his conduct, what's that? He accepted it. He signed something, okay? He agreed. Signed an agreement with Churchill Downs, which stated he was responsible. Now, he was responsible. Okay, Medina Spirit did test positive for a gel or a cream. A trainer who is they go on. A trainer who is unwilling to accept responsibility. He signed it. He signed the agreement, so he did accept it. For multiple drug test failures in our highest profile races, I don't see him having multiple failed drug tests in the Kentucky Derby. And Bob, remember, he was in a complete state of shock when this failed drug test came up, and he was determined to get to the root of how this horse tested positive. Do you think a guy of his profile would try and cheat or risk something with his horse in a race like the Kentucky Derby? And his shock afterwards. Now, we're really looking at the fact that they're decided late to extend the extension another year, a couple months after he wins the Preakness. Now, here's Bob, a Baffert whose lawsuit against Churchill Downs was dismissed in May, later responded to the ruling saying he was at a loss to understand Churchill Downs' latest action to suspend me. According to tweets from Athletics' Dana O'Neill, from the moment I learned of Medina's post-race positive, now more than 2 years ago, I committed to find out how it could have occurred. A view of our treatment records show we used a topical ointment named Otomax for a skin infection. I asked that the positive race sample be tested to determine if we could scientifically confirm that the positive came from the ointment. Okay, so he's still looking into this. The testing so confirmed. I have been open, honest, and forthcoming. I have acknowledged that our treatment led to a positive, and I have fully informed the Kentucky Racing Commission. I believe the rules permit the use of Otomax, and I have asked the Racing Commission to review those samples and apply them to the facts. The post-race blood test shows beta-methasone in Medina's Spirit system. Betamethasone skin treatments used to treat itching, swollen, and irritated skin are legal as therapeutic aids, but are banned on and leading up to race day due to the drug's performance-enhancing potential. Did it really make a difference in the race? I'm not I'm not an expert on the drugs. I'm not the pharmaceuticals, a gel on its skin to treat a rash. And it's, again, Bob, he was complete shock, and he's still looking into this. In Baffert's return to the Triple Crown Trail, his national treasure won the 2023 Preakness Stakes. The victory was his 8th in the Preakness, setting a new record for a trainer in the second leg of the Triple Crowns. Hours after another 3-year-old horse, Baffert trained, broke his left front leg while racing at Pimlico course, and we euthanized on the track. Yeah, that doesn't look good, but that happens. It broke its leg. That doesn't sound like it had anything to do with drugs. Now, listen to this. We'll go a step further. Now, are they treating Bob fairly with this extended suspension? Churchill Downs has also had its own trouble with horse fatalities this year. Now, they're going after Bob, but they have their own problems. Listen to this. The track spring meet relocated to Ellis Park in Henderson after 12 horses died in a 1-month span at the Louisville-based racetrack. Trainer Saffie Joseph Jr. was suspended from Churchill Downs on May 4th after 2 of his horses, Parents' Pride and Chasing Artie, died at the track. While CDI, Churchill Downs Inc., remained deeply concerned about the horse deaths, Joseph was reinstated on June 30th after an investigation by KHRC, including necropsy reports of Parents' Pride and Chasing Artie, were completed. So they bring this guy back after 30 days, Saffie Joseph Jr., But Bob gets suspended a couple of years, and then late last year, early July, after Bob wins the Preakness, yeah, let's suspend him another year. Now, remember, this is Bob, with a gel administered. It's not like they shot this horse full of juice. And Bob, in complete shock about it, still looking into it. So that's where we stood from last year. They decided to extend Bob another year. Are they treating him fairly, or are they holding a grudge against Bob? Why was Safi Joseph Jr. Reinstated after maybe a couple of months? And Bob, now he was set to come back this year. Did his Preakness victory have anything to do with the decision to say maybe the CDI was really, really, it really irked them that Bob came back and first time back in a Triple Crown race after serving time suspension, admitting that, okay, if the horse tested positive, I'll accept that, I'll sign this. And he goes off. Him expressing disbelief, trying to look for answers about that. It looks like this was an honest mistake with a drug or a gel that's usually legal to be used in racing. Now they're thinking it affected the Kentucky Derby and it was a slight amount. And he doesn't know how it actually got used and it tested positive. But that he is just in complete shock about this. If you saw him in some of the interviews, he was just appalled. It's like, holy crap. Would he deliberately try and cheat in the Kentucky Derby? My opinion, I don't think so. I think this was an honest mistake, something that slipped through. We don't know the facts for sure. This is just my take on it, that he wouldn't try and cheat in the Kentucky Derby. And he still accepted the suspension. And now they decide late after he wins the Preakness to suspend it, extend it through 2024. So that leads us to right now. The latest on Baffert, which comes from a few weeks ago, because now we got the 2024 Kentucky Derby coming up. Bob currently is ineligible. I searched high and low. I did not see if Bob is going to try and appeal this decision for the 2024 Derby. Because as of right now, he has 5 horses that are in training, and they are on the board in Las Vegas currently for the Kentucky Derby odds for wagering. So let's go to the latest on Bob. He's laying low. He has time to make this appeal, file an appeal. He hasn't said a peep yet, but this is the latest as far as his horses go. Is this fair, this 2024 late suspension extension by CDI? And now they say Kentucky Derby. This is from Horse Racing Nation. And this was released on December 16th. Kentucky Derby candidates, 3 Baffert colts are on work tab. And as we go forward, Muth, an urban legend to Bob's horses, a pair of potential Kentucky Derby 2024 candidates trained, had bullet work Saturday morning at Santa Anita. The 2-year-old colts were clocked at 1:02 for their 5 furlong turns around the main track. Sounds like they ran around the track together as a team. They do that sometimes. They had the same exact times. Now, Muth, who won the Grade 1 American Pharaoh before he finished second in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, was best priced at 40-1 this week in Las Vegas futures betting for the Kentucky Derby. An urban legend, a maiden who finished 7th at Del Mar last month in his second start, carried odds of 150-1. And Mission Beach, another one, is on the board at 200-1 in the futures. And another Baffert colt who finished 4th last month in the Bob Hope G3 at Del Mar worked a half mile in 49.2 seconds. One thing that jumps out at me about this, you usually see more than 5 Baffert entries that are 5 potential entries for the Derby. Is lower than usual, and 3 of them are on work tabs. Usually you see a bunch more for Bob. So that tells me that maybe he's not going to do anything with this 2024 Kentucky Derby. He'll let it okay, maybe this isn't the year for me. I'm already suspended. So he doesn't have his whole, usually have a bunch of horses that Bob are taking money in the futures betting. And now it looks like just a handful are. And here's the thing. The Baffert Colts are attracting action in Las Vegas, even though they must be transferred to another trainer, presumably Tim Yackton, before they may be eligible to qualify for the May 4th running of the Derby. This is because Baffert remains under indefinite suspension by Churchill Downs, Inc. Indefinite suspension. Does that mean a few weeks after the Derby or after the Belmont Stakes, which will be run at Saratoga, by the way, Bob, are they going to turn around and say, you know what, Bob, I think maybe Bob deserves another year and drag this out indefinite suspension now is the way they describe the suspension. Is that leaving everything up in the air? How much is this gel worth? Does the punishment fit the crime? Are they treating him fairly? So we'll take this a step further. Now, this is from Reddit. And just somebody, some people are weighing in on this. And the topic in Reddit is, so this is an open forum. Churchill Downs extends Bob Baffert suspension through 2024 as trainer continues to peddle a false narrative. That's from the Horse Racing News Pollock report. And the first person who responded to this post says, this whole thing has really been eye-opening as to how corrupt CHRB is out here on the West Coast. So it sounds like a coaster. Bob's been pulling his cheat here for so long, it's basically grandfathered in. So here's somebody from the West Coast. Their opinion is that, Bob, I live out here and I think Bob's a cheater. Is this somebody that just has a grudge against Bob? Or I don't know. But again, this is from Reddit. And somebody named Ice Play, and that was from somebody named D's Trees. And somebody named Ice Play, a handle Ice Play. Here he responds with something. And I can't vouch for that, but it looks like a well thought out post with some information. And they say, so the initial responder said, Bob's been pulling his cheat here for so long, it's basically grandfathered in, and choosing CHRB as being corrupt because they're letting Bob slide. And the responder says, what does this mean? How the heck does CHRB have anything to do with this? And how did they help Bob cheat? And he goes on. Says, I see people always saying Bob is a cheater, but can never give examples. Contamination, legal overages, breakdowns. If he is a cheater, then I guess every other damn remotely relevant trainer is a cheater too. Wesley Ward has 2 Class Bs in a year. Pletcher, 6 fails revealed in just 6 weeks after being covered up. So Naira, are they letting Pletcher slide? Is California letting Bob slide? And we go on. Sadler, Class A fail. Shug McGahee, multiple in the past few years and no explanation. I can go on all day. And he goes on. The reality is CHRB was actually way more transparent, whereas East Coast Naira covered up Pletcher and their buddies' failed drug tests for years. And they say Churchill Downs, Inc. covered up for their buddies Brad Cox fails for a full year and released it after the Derby so it wouldn't make him look bad. Orb failed his Kentucky Derby tests in 2013, but CDI said they lost the split sample. I could go on and on and on. And he concludes with, I get it. I get it's easy to be jealous and hate on Bob. And that seems to be a consensus from a lot of people that weigh in on Bob Baffert, that Churchill is just jealous of Bob. They don't want Bob to be bigger than them. Right? Yeah, sure. Kentucky is the capital of horse racing in the United States. We all get that. It has the biggest races of the year, but maybe they don't like it that Bob gets so much attention at these derbies and other big races there, especially the Kentucky Derby with all the derbies he's won and Triple Crowns. And so they come down on him. Maybe they don't want him in there. Maybe they want one of their homegrown in there. So let's keep Bob out of it for a while. Is that what's going on? Do you think that? I don't know, but you wonder sometimes if they're letting somebody like Cox slide and, this thing with Orb with the drug test, failed drug test, and they lost the sample. How do they lose the blood sample? Pletcher and failing drug tests all over the place, but they let him go. Okay, it's easy to be jealous and hate on Bob and Callie as they dominate male dirt racing. Yeah, but if you're going to throw around hyperbolic words like cheater, you better have some hard evidence to back it up. And somebody else just weighs in, and then I'm going to, conclude this here. Churchill, somebody named Handel Othknapp, he's been loading up on horses to pack entries into the Derby next year too. I rough guessed he tried to get 5 entries. Guess I'll be betting on the Derby another year with him out. All right. Let's go to the intangibles here. Do you enjoy the Bob Baffert in the Kentucky Derby? Personally, I find something, it loses some of its juice without Bob there. A big time personality, very highly visible, the shocking white $1 million hairstyle, the sunglasses, the expensive suits. Very sharp guy, pointing to the sky after the victories. A lot of fun for horse racing. It does, and to brass tacks here, the topic is CDI treating Bob fairly with their late decision to extend Bob for another year, thus making him ineligible for 2024. Are they treating him fairly, or is it just a grudge here? He accepted, the decision, and that the horse tested positive. Okay, I'll sit out and I'll come back when it's over. Now they think that, he's not feeling guilty enough. He's not showing enough remorse. What do you want the guy down on his knees groveling? Bob's not going to do that. He went through the necessary steps to appeal, and he accepted the decision, and now he's coming back this year. And then they decide after he wins the Preakness to suspend him again. What are my thoughts? I believe they are not treating him fairly. It looks like some sort of a grudge. They're letting other trainers off with a slap on the wrist, and they're giving Bob years for gel, which to this day he is still looking into, and he was in complete shock when he found out the news. This time it sounds like this guy there was an honest mistake, and in a race such as the Derby, he wouldn't go in there trying to cheat in a race like that. He never got suspended or failed any other Triple Crown races. So look at the magnitude of the race. And one last thing before I go, I put a poll out there today about this topic, and it's on my community page for this channel. And the question is this, it goes right to this video. CDI decided, and it's a yes or no answer, simple as that. And the question here is, CDI decided to extend Bob Baffert's initial 1-year suspension another year, excluding him from the 2024 Kentucky Derby. The decision was made in July after Baffert had already won the 2023 Preakness. Is CDI treating Bob fairly with their late decision to extend his suspension another year? Okay. yes or no. And earlier, I had an earlier poll, is Bob Baffert, 8 months ago, is Bob Baffert bad for horse racing? And here's the 64% said no. 64% of the respondents said no. Bob Baffert is not bad for horse racing. 26% said yes, and 10% were undecided. So more than 2-to-1 in decision of no, he's not bad for, or actually, once 10% undecided, but of those who said yes or no, 64% said he's not bad for horse racing, and 26% didn't like Bob. There is jealousy out there. Maybe someone who's losing to Bob, and so sometimes there's grumblings, and winners. There's always a lightning bolt for a potential jealousy out there. So I got that poll. Is CDI treating Bob fairly here? So we'll see. Time will tell if he tries to fight this suspension another year. I have a feeling he's not going to try and fight it by the fact that none of these horses are taking significantly money, and that we say 5 of them, a handful, are right now in training. Maybe he's going to just let it slide this year. This is my thinking right now. Maybe he'll let it slide. He'll accept the 2024 suspension. This way he doesn't ruffle the feathers of CDI by taking him to court this year, and they'll be more inclined to just let him come back next year, and he could move forward. And if that's the path he takes, he's going to have to transfer his horses in training to another trainer before the end of February to be eligible for the Kentucky Derby of 2024. Last year it was Tim Yackton. I gather it probably go in the same direction. So if you like this channel, if you like this video, feedback is appreciated. Hit the like button. Share this channel if you have horse racing friends out there with them, because we do a lot of live shows covering entire cards, live, open analysis, picks, plays, open chat for the entire card from the time the race is open through finish. And we have a great community, great sharp handicappers. Everybody has with chat, the ability to weigh in, give their picks in advance. A lot of excellent players with big hits, not just me. And so share it with your friends, and I hope you can join us for some of our live shows. So thanks for watching, everybody. What do you think about Bob? Is CDI treating him fairly with this extended late suspension? Let us know. You can leave your opinion down in the comments area below.